our lead story of the day is a doozy because we have a clip here from yesterday's White House press briefing where the room erupted. We got reporters turning on one another, screaming, shouting matches. Folks, wait till we get to it. But the White House press briefing room did lose it on Monday after a reporter from an Africa-focused outlet accused Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre of making a mockery of the First Amendment. Karine Jean-Pierre stepped to the briefing room podium, followed by the cast of the Apple TV series Ted Lasso, who was visiting the White House to meet with President Joe Biden about mental health awareness. Soon after taking the stage, Karine Jean-Pierre was pelted with accusations of discrimination from Today News Africa correspondent Simon Ateba. Here's the first clip, folks, and this isn't even doing justice for what we'll see right after. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Right, you're right. You're here for me. Refer me. No, that's not. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. We're not doing this.
From across the room. You've been discriminating against me and discriminating against some people in the briefing room. And I'm saying that this is the U.S., this is not China, this is not Russia. This is not Russia.
Okay.
What you are doing, you are making a mockery of the First Amendment.
Decorum, please.
It's been 7 months. You've not called on me. You've not my messages. I'm saying that that's not right. That's not right.
Fun times. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Welcome to the press briefing room. Okay.
But this is not right.
Are we ready? Are we?
Folks, that ain't it. That's not even the worst of it. So the Ted Lasso crew gets to do their thing. They're talking about mental health and all that stuff. They leave the stage, and here's what takes place after they walk away.
Make sure.
Karine, what I'm saying is, you can't keep discriminating against some people in the briefing room because you don't like them, you don't like them.
So you have a choice.
No,
You have a choice. You have a choice.
A number of people
Okay.
in the briefing room, and I'm saying that that's not right. This is not China. This is not Russia. This is the United States. This is the White House. It's been 7 months. I sent you emails.
The rest of us are here too, pal.
It's been 7 months. You guys have not done anything for
If
me.
you have grievances, you should bring them to her later.
I have
Right
done
now,
that.
this is
I've
for the
done that.
entire
All my
press corps.
emails have been
And the
ignored.
press corps is tired of dealing with this.
It isn't
I've
just
done
about
that.
you,
I
Simon.
understand that you get questioned all the time and you don't understand what it is to sit here for 8 months and being discriminated against. I understand that you're in the front row and you feel comfortable and you get questioned all the time. But there are people in the back who don't get any questions.
Don't make assumptions about what the rest of us do. Mind your manners when you're in here. If you have a problem, you bring it up afterwards. But you are impinging on everybody in here who's only trying to do their job.
Okay, thank you. I'm saying that you shouldn't discriminate against some people because you don't agree with their question, you're offended by your
You made your
question.
point.
We all heard it.
All right, guys.
Look, point made. The man hasn't got a question in an extremely long time. I can't actually remember when the last time Simon did get a question. And I find it interesting that the people in the front were the ones that were kind of turning behind and going after Simon for raising awareness of the fact that she doesn't take questions from everybody in the room and that she's strategic about who she takes questions from. I mean, Fox News has been dodged for weeks at a time before. We talked about that with Peter Doocy, Jackie Heinrich of Fox News as well. Philip Wegman doesn't get questions. And by the way, Jackie Heinrich, Peter Doocy, and Philip Wegman are the top 3 questions that always gets thrown at Karine Jean-Pierre in the room. That's why we always highlight those 3. We'll highlight CNN and the Associated Press as well as NBC and ABC, especially Peter Alexander every once in a while because they do a great job. But look, it is true. He's bringing up a good point here. Is a lot of people in that room are not getting their questions taken, and it is very frustrating for them, let alone me sitting here having to watch all of it. So I was expecting all of them to band together and go against Karine Jean-Pierre, and they started turning on one another. So the saga continues here with this clown show of an administration, but let's see her response to it all.
As you all know, many of you know, this is the White House press briefing room, a historic room, a room that should have decorum, a room where folks should respect their colleagues and respect the guests that are here. And I understand that there's going to be give and take. That's the way the press briefing has gone for decades before me. And I will always, always respect that. But what I will not appreciate is disrespecting your colleagues and disrespecting guests who were here to talk about an incredibly important issue, which is mental health.
Anybody else find it interesting that she's going to talk about disrespect? But be honest, it is really disrespectful, the fact that you got a lot of people in there trying to do their job. They get paid to write articles. They get paid to report the news, but they go all the way in there in the morning. These people are hardworking, folks. They're up at all hours getting work done so that we can read their articles and actually read about what the hell's going on, exposing this Biden administration, whatever the hell's going on around the world. She doesn't take their questions. That's pretty disrespectful for them not to be able to do their job. And they go in there every morning and sit there and listen to her not answer their questions. And she has the balls to sit there and be like, well, you know what? You're being disrespectful. Yes, it was disrespectful. But at some point, you've had enough. You've just had enough. I understand that you're nice up until a certain point, and then you got to be a jerk. You got to be an a-hole every once in a while. Kudos to that man for being an a-hole, because she's being an a-hole by not taking his questions. So now you got two a-holes going at one another. Jesus.
And what has just occurred this last 10, 15 minutes is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. So we're either going to continue the briefing, or we can just end the briefing right here. No. Okay, well then let's go.
Now, it's just like, yo, it's content, you guys. It is a little embarrassing, the fact that this is taking place on like a national stage, a global stage, and other countries are like, what the hell is wrong with this? But this is what happens, folks, when you elect Democrats in office. This is what you get, as a clown show. It was very similar to the clown show that we saw under the Trump administration. We had Jim Acosta, the mega clown show, going up against Donald Trump and being disrespectful left and right. And at some point, you're going to break. Well, the press briefing continued here. Peter Doocy actually gets a question in with John Kirby relating to China meeting with Russia and what Joe Biden's going to do about it all. So let's hear his response from the Gladiator, giving his question to John Kirby here.
Thanks, John. Russia and China, it seems like these two superpowers are teaming up now against the U.S. Why did President Biden let this happen?
Peter, these are two countries that have long chafed, as I said to Jeff, long chafed at U.S. leadership around the world, and the network of alliances and partnerships that we have. This is not something that these two countries just cooked up since President Biden got elected.
But
it is something that they have been
since
trying
he's been president. He has talked tough. He tried to pressure Putin and Xi to act right or risk their standing on the world stage. Does he see now that they don't care?
Damn, Peter. Oh, God, he's so good. I'm telling you, him, Philip Wegman, Jackie Heinrich, they're folks, they get paid the big, I hope they get paid the big bucks, or they should be getting paid the big bucks. But hey, truth be told, Joe Biden sat there and looked at Donald Trump square in the face and goes, Xi and Putin are going to eat your lunch. Oh, sure. Are they really? Are they really, Joe? Because look what's going on right now. This wasn't going on under the Trump administration. It's going on under the Biden administration. And Peter Doocy's right to call it out. But we'll see the cover up here. We'll see what John Kirby and how he spins this one.
I think if you ask a lot of Russians, they certainly care. I mean, their economy is.
By the way, I know some Russians, especially playing hockey. I know quite a few Russians. I actually know people living in Russia right now. Hell, my other channel, my Restore and Repair channel, literally was on Esquire in Russia. Let me tell you, they ain't hurting that bad, folks. They're actually doing pretty well, so don't listen to this guy. They're actually doing pretty damn well.
Barely being propped up by some pretty radical measures by Mr. Putin. Their military has been roundly embarrassed inside Ukraine, and they continue to lose ground there. And as for China, again, take a look at the way the president...
I like how he's like, well, they've been roundly embarrassed. You're literally giving Ukraine munitions. Like people are sending fighter jets to Ukraine. So it's not like that embarrassing when you literally have the technology from one of the biggest global superpowers in human existence, giving them machinery and equipment. So, I mean, it's not that embarrassing, the fact that they're able to combat the Russians with our own military equipment and our allies. So, look, I'm not trying to defend Russia here. I'm not a Russian fan by any means, but it's just funny here how he's trying to play this whole story of like, well, Joe Biden is not scared of them. Joe Biden's so tough. You know, the Russians should be embarrassed about what they're doing. Again, I think they should pull out of Ukraine. I'm not for it, but also at the same time, it's a little bit silly about what John Kirby's saying.
Has really revitalized and restored alliances and partnerships that were let go, if not ridiculed, in the previous administration. We have prioritized them, and there's no other nation around the world that has this.
You know, for a bunch of people that said Trump this, Trump that, I'm so tired of hearing Trump, I just want him to go away. Why do they always bring him up? Have you noticed that, you guys? Whether it's in the White House press briefing room or it's in news outlets or whatever, he's constantly being talked about. I was told that you didn't want anything to do with the guy, that you wanted him to go away, that you didn't even want him the words to come out of your mouth. And now it's all Donald Trump this, Donald Trump that. He's the one that called the financial crisis, or it's his fault for removing the regulations. It's his fault for how Joe Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. It's his fault for how COVID-19 took place. It's his fault for Russia invading Ukraine. It's his fault for inflation going through the roof. It's his fault for the handling illegal immigration. I mean, it's unbelievable, the blame game on how everything gets thrown at Trump, but nothing could possibly be Joe Biden's fault.
Alliance and partnership network that we do. 5 of our 7 treaty alliances are in the Indo-Pacific, and President Biden has prioritized each and every one of them.
Specific to these two leaders, though, do you think that Putin and Xi fear President Biden?
You'd have to ask them whether they fear or they not.
They?
It is not about fear. It's about President Biden advancing our foreign policy goals around the world. It's about President Biden revitalizing these alliances and partnerships. It's about President Biden and what he's doing to preserve our national security interests around the world. That's what we're focused on.
Of course it's not about fear. You got a guy that's literally fallen up a flight of stairs. He fell off his bicycle standing stationary. He gets lost. He doesn't know where his own office is. By the way, he was the vice president for a good while. He knew where the Oval Office was. Not no more. Literally, the Easter Bunny has to show for him around. There's a reason why he's never on that podium, you guys, taking questions, because he'll get shellacked. He'll lose his train of thought. He literally has fallen asleep during a 60-minute interview. So, of course, they don't fear this guy. Are you kidding me? That's why Russia invaded Ukraine. That's the whole reason why Putin's doing this now rather than later, because he knows he can get away with it, because Joe Biden ain't going to do anything whatsoever. But remember, Xi and Putin gonna eat your lunch, Trump. Yeah, sure, that's working out well so far.
I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.